ABC movie, the characters are so important. How does that affect the editing process?
Oh God, I don't know if that's how I think about it really. I mean, especially with these guys, because it was like, you cut this scene, I'll cut this scene. It wasn't, building out the structure. And I mean, the great thing about their films is that they always have such great actors that it's very easy to cut things together. I mean, you're like, every take is great. It's very easy to piece together a good performance and a good scene. So you don't even change the cut much when I was cutting with them. But no, I don't think, oh, okay, this is the scene where this new person was introduced, or I mean, maybe, I don't know, God, that was a long time ago. Was I the editor on Hudsucker? I don't even know if I cut that movie. But yeah, I think that, it's just, you're really just structuring, like you're cutting the movie together in the beginning, and you're not thinking about the pace so much until after you've got it all strung together, and you're like, oh, okay, we'll go back and we'll make this change. We'll, introduce this character in a different way.
I can't remember either. You were in the cutting room.
I got it somewhere. In terms of, in terms of the writing process, I've heard that you start and then you don't know where it's going to end often. Like, as you go along, you're thinking things up. It's a very ABC process, and as you write together, the scripts can change routes. What do you think that adds, or is that the style? How do you write those scripts?
I was just thinking, sorry, my mind was lagging behind, and I remembered the Marlon Brando quote when somebody asked him something about Apocalypse Now, and he said, "Is that the one I was bald in?" To answer the question, what was the question? Oh, it was about writing. Yes, we write, and this is true both of me and Trish and me and Joel, without an outline, not knowing how the movie is going to end, or even really, sometimes knowing a little bit ahead of time what kind of narrative thing we want to reach some point out, but sometimes not even that, literally not knowing anything about the movie beyond what we've written to, the point we've written to. And it is, so it is mostly like an exercise of thinking, okay, movie begins this way with these characters, what would develop from that? And it's very much connected to what you were talking about just previously. It's like the good thing to happen next is always the thing that's consistent with what you've written. The characters can't change their natures. You set down you set down some givens that you can't overturn. So it's got to make sense, but it's also got to be surprising in some way, or it's dull. So that's really the writing process, trying to figure out, okay, what'll feel like it should have come next, but not feel expected. You know what I mean? It's exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah, and also without any outline or anything, just kind of like start and say, okay, this is a good title, let's make a movie from this title, or this is what we want to do with these few characters. And you're also just thinking up new characters. You're thinking up new, scenes. You're just like, okay, what's going to be fun to write next? And sometimes that's just imagining new characters too that you hadn't started with. It's all just kind of like, what's going to be interesting and fun to watch that also moves the story along.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there was one exception with me and Joel. We kind of knew how the movie was going to end once it's a good case in point for some reason. Inside Llewyn Davis, Joel said, we were in the office, and Joel said, how about there's a movie that starts with Dave Van Ronk being beat up outside of Gertie's Folk City following a performance. And it's just the whole idea of Dave Van Ronk, a folk singer, being beaten up mysterious stranger outside of the folk club just seemed so kind of ridiculous and funny that we went, okay, well, that's the movie we'll do. And we knew the kind of next step in that movie, but only in that one, was, oh, we're going to end it. That'll be the end of the movie too. So we kind of knew the ending of that one before we wrote the middle. But that's very much the exception.
For Fargo, which I very much enjoyed rewatching in -15 in Tromsø, it seemed like the perfect film to do so. This is a film that's obviously was iconic at the time. Francis's performance was amazing. The humor in a noir film is like out of this world. You just don't expect a film that's so dark to be so funny. How did that come about, writing? Was that more, obviously it's set more near where you grew up in some ways?
Yes. I'm crypto-Norwegian. I grew up with a lot of Norwegians and Swedes in Minneapolis. It's very much, it's kind of connected to where me and Joel grew up. And it's kind of, with the benefit of some distance from it, weird landscape that's both kind of suburban and American, but also has a weird regional character, specifically regional character. And the setting, that as a setting for a crime drama just seemed, interesting, or it interested us. We thought, okay, well, horrible crime here in Minneapolis. It was just kind of weirdly, I don't know, dissociative somehow, or I don't know, appealing for some reason. You don't even know the reasons. You just go, okay, this could be interesting.
And the visual language is so strong in that. You really use the snow and isolation in very beautiful ways. How, I know you're often asked, but how does the discussion and the separation between you and your brother work on set? How do you decide those moments? Is there one that's more technical or one that's more storytelling?
No, not at all as between me and Joel, nor as between me and Trish. We just kind of did the same process on our last movie. No, and again, it's kind of an extension of, no, one is not more anything than the other, because being on the set is just an extension of, the writing process. We're just continuing to make the movie together. Is this right or is that right? It's the same question to the same two people. You're just on the set now, and the questions are getting a little more specific,
And Tricia, you're credited as associate editor on that film. What does that mean? And what is that? To these mysterious Roderick Jane, I think.
That was a step below, actually cutting, or maybe I was assembling things for them. It's been a while. I remember doing some of the montage stuff, which was fun, and that was a lot of that stuff Sam Raimi directed. He was the second unit director on Hudsucker. So it was all kind of wacky and great camera moves and stuff.
For Fargo, is there any particular memory you have of that film?
No, I remember it being, that was before, I think we have 2 kids, and it was before either of them were born. I remember being in our apartment once and Ethan just like sitting down and writing, and then it was that scene that, it's the scene where the guy's out in his driveway, and,
Dave Melby is the actor. I can't remember his name. The guy's out in his driveway. He's supposed to be shoveling snow, but it rained the night before, so he was brooming slush out of his driveway.
I just remember, watching Ethan sit there for long, maybe 45 minutes, and reading that scene afterwards and thinking, God, this is so funny. Really appreciating your talent, Heath. Well done.
speaking of talent, The Big Lebowski comes next, and it's a film that is, for many people, the most beloved of the Coen films. It's taken on such cult meanings. There's Lebowski festivals, everybody knows the dude. Was it like making a cultural phenomenon?
You don't know it at the time, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's very much like the question about the Palme d'Or. Okay, we'll take it.
Was there any, I'm watching it, I remember that was one of the first ones of your films that I watched, wasn't the very first, but and I was just like, as a teenager, just completely like blown away by this film because it had so many different elements from Philip Seymour Hoffman and the mysterious character. Then it had this kind of iconic Coen brothers dude who, for me, when I was younger, I was like, oh, it'd be great to live life like that. And so you get older and you're like, I'm not so sure. But it fits in with this schema of this kind of, depressed might be too strong a word, but very challenged male central character that you have in many movies who fails to connect with women, especially. Can you talk a bit about
They're all autobiographical. This is an opportunity to point out that we're happy to we'll take it. We're happy to sit up here and take credit for these movies, but maybe some of the credit is due to the actors. I mean, if you think about The Big Lebowski without Jeff Bridges and John Goodman and Phil Hoffman, who you mentioned, and Sam Elliott playing the weird Western, and Julianne Moore. I mean, what do you got without them?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, on the set on The Big Lebowski, you watch all of the bowling stuff, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, like, this is so much fun to watch, but the same thing happened on Hudsucker, like, the whole, there are so many fun scenes to watch, and then some just, it connects or it doesn't, and when The Big Lebowski came out, no one saw it. It kind of became a cult classic. I mean, maybe that's what happens with cult classics. No one sees them when they come out, and then everyone starts to watch them. But no one seemed to, have any use for The Big Lebowski when it came out.
You mentioned
Nobody had any use for the Hudsucker Proxy ever. And I blame Paul Newman. The guy's just...
that guy's never going to have a career, right? Speaking of actors, you have so many great actors working for you, but in the next film, Oh Brother, George Clooney joins. He was a superstar at the time. Did you approach him? Did he approach you? What happened? How did you get Clooney in the picture?
We approached him. We had just seen the Steven Soderbergh movie Out of Sight, which is a really good movie, right?
Great movie.
Yeah, and he's really good in it, right? So, so we approached him, and he's enough of a goofball that he was interested. We asked George, we asked John Turturro and Tim Blake Nelson, who's an old friend of ours. More Joel's at the time than mine. I didn't know him well then.
And obviously it's associated loosely with Homer's The Odyssey. I'm interested, for both of you, when something is loosely based on existing material, do you reference that material while you're working? Does it influence the edit?
Me and Joel were both, in the credits, it's based upon The Odyssey by Homer. Me and Joel were both proud of the fact that we had never read The Odyssey and still haven't, so no.
I was definitely the only person in the cutting room who had ever read The
Which kind of begs the question, was that a humorous position to take? Were you playing a joke on the audience? Or what of the Odyssey Kiss notes did you want to reference?
Well, I say we never read it, and it's true, but everybody knows, there's the sirens and there's the Cyclops, and, you kind of know the story without ever actually having read it, and that was just kind of well, it's true. It's about a guy returning home after a long absence in the wars, in prison, whatever. It's a guy returning home, so we refer to all the tropes of that story, which everybody knows, even if they haven't read it. It's another kind of discovery thing. We started with the idea of this guy's going back home, and we went, oh, okay, we're doing the Odyssey.
And how is it different cutting for comedy to cutting for drama?
I think it's like a matter of timing. You want to make sure that, it's just different. Comedic timing is a little different from dramatic timing, and so you want to make sure you've got all those beats. Usually there's more time in dramatic time, in drama. You give people a little more time on screen. But again, cutting with them, you're not even thinking, oh, this is the dramatic scene, or this is the comedic scene. You're just really pacing it off of the performance between the actors. So you're just gonna follow what they're doing, because on set it works so well. So you don't even think about timing that much.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like you don't even think about drama or comedy. It's like there's an objective question, which is what's the right pace, and when you don't have it, it's palpably wrong. It's wrong. It's not even it's not a subjective. You don't have an opinion about what's right or wrong. You look at it and you go, no, that's wrong.
And then The Man Who Wasn't There, which is black and white, is visually very different, very much paying a homage in many ways to older movies. At this stage, you mentioned at the beginning that sometimes it's hard not to repeat yourself, but you still seem to be trying all the time to be fresh and new. With The Man Who Wasn't There, you again managed that, and it's remarkable throughout your career how many great films you have. Most directors are happy to make one. Already you've made we can argue. I've argued with many people. They think other films are greater than I do, and I think other of your films are better than them. And so look at that look. And so. For you get there, are you feeling the pressure now that you're now the Coen Brothers?
Oh no, we never really, no. That was, again, as always, we wanted to do something different, but it's not because we want to do something new to the world or be innovative or anything. We just want to do something new to ourselves, and that was very specifically, we wanted to do a James M. Cain story, just as Miller's Crossing started with us going, okay, we'll do a Dashiell Hammett story. We love James M. Cain, which is a very different, totally different thing from Dashiell Hammett. We thought, okay, this could be interesting, and we started thinking about actors, France specifically, and it's really, we take the given. Like I say, we'll take it. We don't want to be, neither me nor Joel nor Trish, me and Trish have wanted to be innovative ever.
That's incredible. I don't believe that for a second. That's
no, it's true.
Given how innovative so many of your films are, we can there's scenes that are incredible throughout the work. but because of time, I want to rush through the other films and just jump forward to, when Trisha and yourself decide to do the Jerry Lee Lewis documentary, how that came about, and obviously for many people, Joel goes off to make Macbeth, and you're making the Jerry Lee Lewis film, and then Drive Away Dolls, which comes out next month. What made that change happen, and what are you finding now? Is there a freshness?
There's so many other good films you're leaving out, William.
I know, there's No Country, there's A Serious Man, I know, timing.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Ethan. I think, Ethan was kind of semi-retired. I think, Ethan, I don't know if he liked to have fun, but but I think you weren't having as much fun anymore.
It got to be less fun just because the last two movies I made with Joel were just really difficult in terms of production. They were just hard movies to make. They were still fun days, but it was kind of a job. It was kind of hard, just in terms of the production process.
Well, and westerns. I think you guys made 3 big, hard exterior movies.
Yeah. But also Hail Caesar. That was like making 10 different movies at once. So I decided I just told Joel I was kind of bowing out. I was like, it's gotten too hard. I'm too lazy, too old and too lazy, which he totally understood because he's getting older and lazier himself. But not as much as me. So I kind of stepped out for a while, and then a friend of ours, a friend of all three of ours, T-Bone Burnett, the music producer, wrote to Trish this is about a year into my bowing out, and it was during COVID, the beginning of COVID. He wrote to Trish asking if she would do this Jerry Lewis documentary that he was
I was like, no way. I really wasn't that interested. I love Jerry Lee Lewis, but he's such a complicated and kind of angry guy. And I was like, I don't know if I can spend that much time with Jerry Lee Lewis, but Ethan was really interested. So we chose to do that during COVID. It was such a hard time for everyone. It was a dark time globally, but we were very lucky to be able to just, in our home, just get sent tons of archival footage and cut together what had originally started out being a kind of just session film of Jerry Lee Lewis's last session, recording a gospel album. That's what T-Bone wanted. And we turned it into something else.
And it's a film that people can see tomorrow at the festival. Making a documentary, is that an editing process when it's archive material?
That's an interesting question in the context of all the preceding, because it's kind of a writing question. It was all archival footage, all found footage. So the process of making the movie was addressing that question of what comes next, what's the story. It's the editing decisions are the writing decisions. You know what I'm saying? You're deciding what the movie is.